Bill, you want to start? Let's get a few questions or comments. Sir, if you could stand up, please.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you so much for coming to the great state of Minnesota, home of a true progressive, Senator Paul Wellstone. You are one of my political heroes, and thank you. My question is, how can we help you defeat this horrible trade deal called TPP? Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me, first of all, thank the people of Minnesota for sending Paul Wellstone to the Senate. Paul was a personal friend of mine. And I remember, like it was yesterday, where I was when I heard the news about his plan. Paul was, in Sheila, were an inspiration to all of us. And it's not just that he is solving this, but most importantly, his legacy and his vision remain in the hearts of all of us. So, thank you. Now, in terms of the TPP, you have a piece of legislation which is a continuation, in my view, of disastrous past trade policy. It is supported by every corporation in America, by Wall Street, by the drug companies. We lost key votes. We lost key votes in terms of fast track, but the fight is not yet over. And I think to answer your question, what we have got to do is educate the American people about what this Trans-Pacific Partnership is, come up with an alternative trade policy which says that trade should work for working people in this country and abroad, and not just the CEOs of large corporations. So we've got a lot of education, but I think when people hear the facts, they come over to our side. So we are going to remain focused on that issue. Okay, Shannon? Yeah.
Thanks for coming to our city, Mr. President. My name is Zane Zadro from Rochester. I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on public banking.
Good. The question is, what are my thoughts on public banking? I think it's a great idea. North Dakota, as you know, has had for many years a very successful bank. We've talked about it in the state of Vermont. And the issue about public banking, very briefly, is you take revenues from the state and you reinvest it in the state to create jobs in your community, improve agriculture, improve the environment. You make that money go around in ways that improves the lives of people. I'm strongly supportive of that concept.
I'm a proud progressive, and the Declaration of Independence says a government of, by, and for the people, and if it's not working for you, take it back. And one of the things we have in our favor is net neutrality, and it's in jeopardy, and over 5 million people signed petitions to help protect it, and I think it's one of our most valuable resources. If we do not have that bit of media, the rest of it is controlled by the other side, we're in big trouble. So I would like all of you to consider getting behind every group that you believe in and sign petitions. There's lots of opportunities out there.
Okay, thank you very much. You're right. There is no question that the internet has been one of the forces for democracy, for freedom, for the right of people to express their point of view. And that's why we take strong advantage of that. We have on my Senate website, I think we have over 1.2 million people on our Facebook. We're working hard on the campaign, BernieSanders.com, to grow that as well. And you're right. What we do not want is corporate America to take that over, to make it impossible for the small guys to actively and equally participate. Shannon, where are you? There you are. Okay.
Yes, Senator, in the discussions with Vietnam, and a lot of my veteran groups are asking me this question, is the issues of the over 1,000 MIA remains still there going to be brought up? And is the issue of the 400 Amerasian families still stuck in Vietnam finally going to be dealt with, and this war can be over for all of us?
Well, let me say two things. First, thanks for your question, and thank you for your service to our country. I am the Before I get to Vietnam, let me get to even a more recent one. I'm the former chairman of the Veterans Committee. And let me just tell you something about the cost of war, which I'm sure this gentleman will echo. People don't know what the cost of war is about. And in terms, just forget, what was the 59,000 who died in Vietnam? How much is it?
58,000, you want to read the hundreds?
No, my eyes aren't affected, but 58,000 who died. Maybe the even more significant issue, tragically, is how many died after they came out. How many lived out, how many people were living out on the streets, how many people were dealing with drugs and other very, very serious problems. In Iraq and Afghanistan, and I will tell you that I voted against the war in Iraq, I think that was the right vote. It was not just the 6,700 men and women who died in that war. 500,000 came home with PTSD and traumatic brain injury. And as I'm sure you will echo, we have a moral responsibility to do everything that we can, not only to make sure that those veterans get the benefits to which they are entitled, they get all of the health care that they need to make them whole. And I will tell you this, that the way we treated Vietnam was a very contentious war. I opposed the war in Vietnam. But nobody, no matter what your view on a war is, you do not blame the men and women who put their lives on the line in that war. You blame the presidents and the Congress who sent them off to those wars. Vietnam, we will do everything that we can to uncover the truth and to make sure that we make right for the families who are suffering as a result. So we got to find out what's going on and do the right thing by those families. And I promise you we will do that. Okay. Bill, yeah. Ma'am.
Hi, thank you for coming. My name is Sarah Merritz. I'm a professor in neuroscience at Carleton College. And my question has to do with science funding. I feel like the future of our country in terms of science is in danger. There aren't jobs, and people both in high school and in college are not entering those fields. Absolutely. Because there isn't enough funding. How's that going to fit into your plan?
Well, it's a question of changing our national priorities. What Sarah is saying is exactly true. We have a struggle every year to adequately fund, among other programs, the NIH. Because we have Republicans who just don't want to spend money on that. That's just the simple reality. I think, and I think, Sarah, you would agree with me, that investing in science pays for itself many, many times over. We have huge healthcare problems, whether it's Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, that we need solutions to. And the way you get those solutions is to fund our scientists. And your point is well taken, I know this. When grants are being cut significantly, you know where scientists are going? They're leaving the United States, they're going abroad. What sense is that? So of course we've got to fully fund the NIH and our other scientific organizations.
Abe Lincoln, can you save us from ourselves? Can you save us from the economic terrorism of the wrong kind of capitalism? We need that help. The labor unions, I'm a labor man. And I'm going to tell you something, we can't do it without your help. If Congress doesn't do it, we wouldn't even exist. And we've been fighting for you folks, you've got to fight for yourself. Bernie, how can we generate these feelings to get them to work for themselves, for God's sake?
All right.
Can you save us, Bernie?
No, I can't save you, but together we can save ourselves. What we need is, I mentioned earlier, we absolutely need a revitalization of the trade union movement in this country. And one of the problems that's happening is that millions of workers would like to join a union, but it is impossible to join a union where they work because of the often illegal activities of their employers. And that is why I strongly support what we call card check legislation, which means that if 50% of the workers in a bargaining unit plus one sign on to a card saying they want a union, then they will have a union.
So before my question, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for addressing that. Now, my question is what you think about the recent Supreme Court ruling that the EPA, when setting emissions guidelines, has to balance the interests of the coal barons against the health of Americans, and disproportionately poor Americans.
Well, I think you know what my answer is. I agree with the premise of your point. I mean, one of the issues, and I want to get back to this issue of incarceration as well. You know, the logic here is that poisoning our children or destroying our planet because of the mass emissions of carbon dioxide, that balances. What does it balance? What is the equation when we are making kids sick or destroying the planet? So in terms of that equation, my view is that in terms of climate change, we need a tax on carbon, and I've introduced legislation to do just that. Let me say a word about this incarceration, because it is a huge issue, and it touches on Ferguson, and it touches on Baltimore, it touches on the reality that young blacks walk down the streets of cities in America, they get harassed, they get beaten, and occasionally they get killed. And what that tells me is that we need some major changes in our criminal justice system in this country. I was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, the largest city in the state of Vermont, for 8 years, and I worked very closely with our police officers. Being a police officer is a very, very difficult and stressful job. And vast majority of police officers do good work. They do the best that they can. But when you have police officers who act illegally, who beat people up, who kill people, when they act illegally, those police officers must be held accountable. They must be indicted. Okay, maybe one last question back there.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. What you said is really inspiring us. And what I'd like everybody to think about is kind of being an energizer battery. And now it's up to us to make email lists, contacts, the organizations that we belong to, the places where we work, and the forces for promoting this, this agenda. Each of us can do it. Thanks.
If I could just add to that, I'm Phil Tremonti. I work for the Senator's campaign. What a great crowd, a lot of enthusiasm here. And just to echo what she said, please go to BernieSanders.com. There's ways that you can get involved in the campaign online there. For those of you who have cell phones, please take your cell phone out now and just send a text. Just text Bernie, put Bernie in your message to this number. And the number is 82623. 82623. And just send a text, Bernie, and what that will do is keep you connected to the campaign. We'll let you know when Bernie's going to be back in Minnesota, any breaking news on the campaign, that sort of thing. It's a great way to stay involved. We need, as Bernie said, this is not going to be funded by the billionaires. This is a people-powered campaign. So we can do this with your help. Please sign up on our sign-up sheets before you go. And thank you so much for coming out.
All right, let me just conclude. First of all, again, this is an unbelievable turnout, and thank you so much for being here. And the last point I want to make is maybe picking up on that woman's question. It is true that the other side has unbelievable sums of money. And it is true that they will flood the airways with ugly 30-second ads. And it is true, they have all kinds of resources. But the one thing they don't have is that while they have the money, we have the people. Mm-hmm. And if people stand together, if we don't allow ourselves to be divided up by race or sexual orientation, or other kinds of immigrant versus native born. If we just stand together and we fight for our kids and our parents and ourselves, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish in this great nation. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Jess.
1, 2, 3.
Got it?
Thank you.
Don't news clips that gets out of the newspaper not saying restore fair system. Restore the restore is good. Figure if I get the wife to talk.